I think that for it to bear fruit, it has to spread in the minds of people, and especially in the minds of people who have influence or authority, but also in the minds of all people. And I believe that if you look around the world, I mean, to be honest, I showed you a picture of a Vatican conference. I worked for 7 years in Rome. Part of my role was dialogue with the Vatican. They didn't want to talk to us. That's the truth. But, you know, but now they're sending people to our conferences. Why? Because they see the level of seriousness and they feel we're getting some traction. But there's another reason why. It's because UPF's director in Argentina worked for 10 years in interfaith work. And he dealt with the main Jewish leader of Argentina and the main Catholic leader of Argentina. And then a little bit later, the Catholic leader became the Pope.
That's right.
And that man who became the Pope then invited him to a conference with director Thomas Walsh. Because of 10 years of good interfaith work, he knew who to ask to Rome. So the credit goes to hard work for 10 years, which nobody saw. So that's why, if we live and act with integrity, it may not look much now, but people know who to trust. And when it comes to that, people turn around and say, actually, this is the person you need. Why did Václav Havel become president of his country? He was in prison, but he was the only one who had the courage to tell the truth as it was. So when the country was ready for change, they said, this is the man we want. So if UPF continues to act with integrity, I'll give you another example, which is quite interesting. We had the conference we had in 2012 in Amman was not far into the Arab Spring. It was a year and a half into, so people were still talking about it as a spring. And we had speakers from Tunisia and from Egypt. But we also had the Minister of Awqaf, the Minister of Religious Affairs for the government of Jordan, plus various muftis from all the different sections of the armed forces. They were supposed to speak on the Saturday. On the Friday, I don't remember the day, anyway, the day after. On the day before, the Tunisian spoke and the Egyptian spoke. And the Egyptian said, around this time, 2012, it was before the current government, it was the other government, you understand, under Morsi, right? And the Egyptian said, what we have now is far worse than under Mubarak. The constitution they're trying to pass is much worse for our country. And do you know what happened at lunchtime that day? The Minister of the Awqaf sat with Dr. Walsh and me and basically said, if you do this kind of thing, you can't have a conference in my country. Why? Because it was against government policy to be against Egypt. But if you think of what he really thinks as a person, he was very happy we were doing that. But he had to take his political position, right? So, but what Dr. Walsh said was, we are for religious freedom, we are for freedom of thought. If we're having a conference, we will let the people we want to speak. Even though the minister of the government said you can't do that. So, 6 months later, the situation in Egypt changed. How do you think the Jordanian minister thinks about us now? He knows who he can trust, because we didn't change our colour.
That's right.
We were clear. So if you want to know signs of hope, it comes from keeping the right way, regardless of what's going on elsewhere. I didn't talk about Ukraine because it's not my area, but we've done, what's the word? New territory work there, because we are pioneering work, because we brought together people like the Russian I showed you there, with people from the West, to discuss in a peaceful way the different perspectives from the Russian side and the Western side. The British media knows nothing about that. It's all one side in the British media. But if we want peace, we have to listen to both sides. And if we do it, people will say one day, well, UPF always listened to both sides. And then, when they want, in Nigeria, isn't it Nigeria? UPF has been asked to provide 100 observers for the elections. Because they know Islam and Christianity, who's a peacemaker between those two? Ask UPF. So we're providing the election observers in Nigeria. So yes, gradually people come to recognize who we are and what we stand for, and it may not have changed this nation or that, but it's certainly helped. In Liberia, we did a major conference for reconciliation, and it was recognized in the national media. In Nepal, if you know what's happening in Nepal,
yeah.
you know, so around the world, UPF has a standard which is the same. And that's why I talked about simple things like reconciliation, example, live for others, example, be like parents, example. They're things that you and I can do, but we can also do institutionally and globally. And then we can really begin to move things.
David, that was excellent. What I was, of course, more or less I'm involved in what we're doing from the UPF and from the several other organizations which are involved going to the Syrias, Palestine, Israel, Turkey, Geneva's, you name it. But of course, what I was going to say, of course, I find you're a man of experience on that. I'm doing a lot of things for peace, and I'm servant of the people. And I speak my mind. For that reason, the Israel like me, the Palestine like me, they say, you got a place in our heart or in our society. And if it was up to you to bring a world to the peace, world to the peace, what's your opinion? What do you say, for example, in one sentence, how we can bring a world to peace? But what do you think, what is your opinion?
Very simple. Build a good family.
Yes.
If we build good families, we teach peace to the next generation, we practice peace in our family, and we go out and we do it everywhere else we are. So the way to peace is to build good families.
Moreover, to educate the nation to love their country. And this sort of thing, if it's not existed, we are not one nation.
Yeah, it's true. Because, and you're very right to say that, thank you. Because I'm in Europe now. Europe has forgotten the value of the family, so we have to shake it up and let them see it's central. In the Middle East, they still know the value of the family.
That's right.
But they don't know what civic values are. So the answer is a different answer in different places. Because nobody knows how to live with the people they disagree with in the Middle East. They know how to live on top of them or under them, but not beside them. That's what it is. They don't, understanding how to live with disagreement in the real democratic sense is a cultural development that does not exist. So civic values need to be grown in, not bombed in. They need to be grown in so that people can learn, and it takes a long time. So absolutely, you're right. But you gave me a second sentence, thank you.